Welcome to the Nick and Jimmy Show. On today's episode, we have a very special guest. He came down all the way from Florida. This person is doing some phenomenal things. He's a USA real estate investor. He has over 7,000 doors cash flowing right now as we speak. And he took the time to come on our show to share his story, why real estate, and why you should get involved in the real estate market. He's doing some great things. And the best part is, he lives in Florida, but he's originally from Montreal. And what we do is obviously expose Montreal's hidden talents. And we want to thank Marco Kozlowski for being on our show. We appreciate you. And
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
So talk to us. Who are you and what do you do?
My name is Marco, and I do things. I actually empower people to buy properties in the United States using none of their own money. It's forbidden to use your own money.
And how is that? How and why?
I show how to use something called asset-based lending. Asset-based lending is lenders that will lend based on the value of the property, a certain percentage based on the value, not necessarily what the purchase price is necessarily. So if you buy a property that's worth $1 million, generally the asset-based lender will give you up to 70% of the value, and I'm going to underline this, the value of the asset. So if you can buy the property at $900,000, you'll have to put $200,000 down. If you buy the property for $800,000, you have to put $100,000 down. If you buy the property for $700,000, you actually have no money down whatsoever. So I empower people to buy properties at the right price, which is the only way to buy real estate as far as I'm concerned. In Canada, which I'm from Quebec, and but I live in the United States because the taxes are better. I don't know about you, but I don't like paying more tax than I have to. And two, the money is very easy to find. And in Quebec, it's very, very difficult to find the right amount of money for the right price. And in the US, it's actually quite simple if you know what you're doing.
And you focus more on commercial, so multi-units,
hotels, mobile home parks, apartment buildings, anything where people are storing themselves or their crap.
No residential?
No.
And why not residential?
One mortgage, one property is a problem because if that person disappears, which happens, specifically in... Wow, it just happens. Not everyone is going to stay all the time.
And you lose the cash flow.
You lose the cash flow immediately, and you have a mortgage. I have mortgages on everything that I own. So I love leverage. And the leverage that I use is non-recourse leverage, meaning that you don't personally guarantee anything. So if you decide to walk away tomorrow, which would be silly because you'd lose the cash flow,
And people in Canada wonder, can a Canadian actually go and buy real estate in the US? Do they need a US social security number? What do they need?
I'm from Canada. I'm from Quebec. And you don't need a US social. You don't need credit. You don't need anything. It's asset-based lending. Just like going to a pawn shop. If I were to take a Rolex and go to a pawn shop, do I need a social security number to get money from a pawn shop?
No.
Well, why not? But you're Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Same thing with a property. If you don't pay the mortgage, if you don't pay the payments, then you lose the property. Same exact thing.
But do banks want to lend? Do US
We're not
banks?
going to banks.
Okay,
we're not going to banks. We're going to private individuals or asset-based lenders specifically that lend us the money at anywhere between 8 and 11%. Okay. So it's not crazy. And I know that most people, maybe if you listen to this, you think 8%, 11%, that's crazy. But if you're making more than 8 to 11%, it makes sense because you're making money on somebody else's money. So, why use my own money if I don't have to? So if I'm buying a property at 12, 13, 14% return and I'm paying 8%, I'm making a 5% spread. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually not in the real estate business. I'm really in the cash flow business. Mm-hmm. So I borrow the money at 8%, I make 12%. That's a 5% spread, or 4% spread in this case. But in most cases, I make anywhere between 5 and 8% spread on what I'm borrowing the money on. So for every $1 million, that's per year. So every $1 million so there's a lot of good things. So for every $1 million that I borrow, I make $80,000, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know about you, but would you like to make $80,000 never putting a dime into the deal? Are you sure?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
Is that your shirt face?
Yes.
Okay, good. So you make $80,000 on that, and you get a tax break. You get actually $36,000 in tax breaks in the U.S., which you don't get in Canada. So the first $36,000 you actually don't pay taxes on. So if you own $3 million in property, the first $100,000 you never pay taxes on. So you get a great tax.
This for corporations?
It's called depreciation,
Oh,
which
depreciation.
you don't get in Canada.
Canada.
So it's you can deduct interest, which you can't do here.
Oh, yeah.
You can deduct, you have depreciation, you have amortization, you have all these different ways of getting paid. You have cash flow, depreciation, amortization, and it's phenomenal. As far as as the economy shifting, which is always going to happen, no matter who the president is. Every 8 to 12 years, there's a correction in the market. So
we're due, right?
We're due. It's been a while. It's been at least 10, 11, 12 years. So depending on when you watch this, yeah. The aliens were really cool, by the way, that landed on the planet. That was pretty cool. If you missed that, you were sleeping. But all joking aside, when there is a market correction, it's a great time to buy because the market goes down. So it's a phenomenal time to get involved. If the market prices go down, I'm not worried about it because if someone loses their property, like in 2008, there was obviously, do you know how many people lost their homes in 2008? Any idea?
How many?
12 million people lost their homes, which is the entire number of addresses that there are in Canada. So the entire population of Canada lost their homes in 2008, which is terrible. However, even though they lost their homes, people still need a place to live. If you don't pay first thing you pay is your rent. If you don't pay your rent or your mortgage, you're homeless, right? So if you don't pay your rent, bad things happen. So I had, obviously a devastation because I was heavily invested in single family properties in 2008, but I was buying properties in Vegas at the same time at $25,000 a pop, 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a pool that are now worth $500,000 for $25,000. So it's a great opportunity to buy as much as possible.
You still have those?
Yeah. Well, I sold a lot of them because I use somebody else's money. So I'm borrowing, let's say that I want to take your $25,000, I buy a property and we split the profit. So I would take your $25,000 and we sell it for $250,000, $300,000. You put in $25,000 and you got a $100,000 profit. I put in no money and made a $100,000 profit. Who did better?
But by doing that, isn't there like laws about raising money and taking people's money?
Syndication, right?
Well, there are laws about syndication where you're pooling money, and there are laws on the way you have to do things, and that's why you have to get educated on what to do and what not to do. So right now we're just doing brushstrokes as to what you can do, but if you don't know what you're doing and you start doing things and it's actually not legal,
It's kamikaze.
you can actually go to prison for raising money the wrong way. And in the 20 years that I've been doing this, I've avoided prison because I won't do well there.
So you say you've been doing it for 20 years?
20 years.
What were you doing before this?
I was a concert pianist, musician. Yeah, and I was completely broke. I was broke. I was fighting over money all the time with my spouse. I had 4 kids. I got married really young. I got married at 18, 4 kids at 24. And you know what the number one cause of divorce is, right? When you're always fighting over money. What is it?
Money.
No. The number one cause of divorce is not money. It's actually marriage.
Getting married in the first place.
It's a joke. But yes, it is money problems. So if you, we're having always these huge fights over money. It was terrible. I hated it. And actually saw an infomercial of all things, how to buy real estate in the United States. And I always liked the U.S. because a dollar in the U.S. is worth more than in Canada. So if I can do the same transaction in the U.S. than I can in Canada, and I'm living in Canada, I'll get paid U.S. dollars to live in Canada, which is great. And the tax structure in the U.S. is much more effective in the U.S. than it is in Canada, specifically in Quebec, because that's where I lived.
And you never invested in Canada?
I have, but not when I first started. Because in Canada, you need 20, 30% down, you need good credit. There's only 5 banks. The odds are against
The returns are very low?
And the returns are low. There are 3,000 banks in the United States. That's 3,000 major banks. There's 8,000 secondary banks. And there's 100,000 private lenders plus. So you've got 5 banks versus hundreds of thousands of ways of finding money. It's a totally different game.
An eviction,
Oh
it's a
my
landlord
gosh.
market, right?
Eviction, you can't get someone out here. I have an apartment complex here in Montreal. We were talking about this yesterday.
You're talking about
I can't get rid of them. If it's cold, you can't get, if it's cold, you can't get rid of them. If they're on welfare, you can't get rid of them. If they're pregnant, you can't get rid of them. It's la Régie du Logement is very, very, very specific, and the laws are not.
How about the U.S.?
In the U.S.?
3 days.
No, it's you have a 3-day notice, then a 5-day notice, and then in around 2 weeks after the 3 and the 5, you have a cop that pulls out his gun. He's excited because he gets to pull out his gun. He hits on the door, says, "If you're in here, I'm gonna shoot," because he gets to shoot his gun. They like that shit.
Crazy.
So it's great. It's great. It terrifies me, to see a cop take out his gun, but they like it, and they're literally like, if you're in here, you're going to die. So get the hell out.
Wow.
It's crazy. But
And how much does it cost to do that? Like how much? Because here you could go like 6-7 months without paying rent and you're good. There it's 2 weeks, but how much you have to pay for the cop to go there and evict the
But
tenant?
it's part of the public service. You're paying property taxes for that service. That's the point. How much you have to pay, it's like, how much you have to pay to, sleep with your wife. It's
remember
it's enjoyable for them.
I remember like yesterday we had Jean Saint-Grégoire here, and you should connect with Jean. Shout out to Jean Saint-Grégoire. He has, I think, 1,500 doors or something in Quebec. And I asked him, what's the biggest challenge doing what you're doing? And he said, well, exactly what you're doing, Régie du Logement. There's people, I think at one point, 2 years, it took 2 years to get this guy out. 2 years.
Yeah, they get benefits.
It's crazy.
And the tenants know the laws better than you do. They know how to play the game. Like if they're bankrupt, then they get pregnant, then the one gets bankrupt, then the other gets bankrupt. You can play that game like forever. And literally live for free if you know what you're doing. It's crazy. In the US, totally different. Again, it depends on the state. Each state has different laws. New York State is different than Florida, which is different than California.
I think Democratic states are more like Quebec.
It depends.
And Republican states are more
It really depends because that swings back and
Yeah.
forth, right? So depending on what the mood of the hour is, and what's going on. But in most cases, other than California, because in California, I'll own a hotel in California, but I won't own a multifamily in California because there's rent control, which is you can only charge so much.
just like here, basically.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
So going back to your story, you were married, 4 kids,
Yep.
broke,
Very.
you got divorced,
I did.
and then what?
Then I was a stay-at-home dad, and I had my pardon the expression, my balls were in my wife's purse. I had no confidence whatsoever. I had no idea. Can I say that? I don't know if I can or not. All right. Yes, my balls were completely in my wife's purse. I had no confidence. I had no idea how to actually be a man. And I don't mean that in a sexist way, but I mean that in a just to stand up for myself. I was a big pussy.
And you were very shy, no? Before.
Extremely shy.
Yeah.
I was not the person that I am today. And I worked a lot on myself. How
How did you work on yourself? What did you do? Did you read books for that? Did you
I
go to
read
seminars?
books. I went to seminars.
Any books you can recommend?
Yes. And I went to there's the subtle art of not giving a F. I don't know if I can say F, but it's the subtle art of not giving
We'll be back.
is a great book. It's an orange book with black writing. It's a good book. I recommend that now. That didn't exist 20 years ago when I first started. I read a lot of books on negotiation. How to basically communicate effectively without without just caving in on in everything. And I realized that by not having my own power, by not being able to communicate effectively, I was actually hurting the people around me. So as a Canadian, we're sorry about everything. I'm sorry, right?
In the US, the opposite.
And in the US, if you're kind, if you're nice, then you get eaten alive, right?
Yeah.
So I had to learn
Switch it
how
up.
to still keep the integrity of not wanting to be a complete, pardon the French, an asshole, right? And balancing the fact that I don't want to hurt people, because that's really not what I want to do. I want to help as many people as possible because at my core, my values are altruism. I really want to help other people. So if I'm finding someone that that needs to sell their property quickly, because the key to making money in any real estate transaction is to buy it at the right price. Because if you don't buy it right, you're never going to make any money. So we have to buy it right. In order to do that, I have to communicate in a way where the person needs to know that I can close, that I have the money to do that. Now, at first I didn't have any money. So how do you tell someone that I have money without actually having any? So I had to figure out how to communicate that I can close, because it's like a chicken and egg thing where if you're selling your property and it's worth like $1 million or 500,000 from Montreal, so 500,000, and if you sell it to me for 350, I can get a no money down deal. So I have to communicate with you specifically that, hey, if you sell it to me for X price, I can write you a check tomorrow, but I'm writing a check with somebody else's money, right? So I have to learn how to communicate in a way where I'm writing checks with other people's money. So if I buy it at the right price, I'll always be able to buy it with zero cash out of my pocket, which is the only way that I buy property. I actually buy 1,500 units a year, not using my own money. 1,500 units a year. We did 2,000 this year. Over 2,000.
And you're at $7,000 right now?
Over 7,000. Yeah, we crested over 7,000 in June, and I actually we did 1,000 units over the summer, and I don't work during the summer.
So $7,000 and 2,000 this year.
2,000. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And you never use any of your own money?
Not a nickel, ever.
And how, because I mean here in Canada we get 4%, like you're saying 5%, but you're talking about 15% in the US as if it's like a total normal thing.
Why? It is.
Why would somebody want to give away a property with a 15% return?
The 5 Ds. The 5 Ds are divorce. Do people get divorced? Death. Displacement, where people are moving. Debt. 94% of lawsuits in the world are in the United States. The world. It's $1 trillion industry in the United States. So if you're getting sued and you need to raise capital, we're actually working on a $500 million deal right now that we're actually picking up for $200 million. Exactly for that. An insurance company is getting sued and they need to raise cash quick, and we can buy a property quickly. So it's at 200. We're going to buy an entire block in a very upscale area.
New York?
Yes. New York?
Yeah. City.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
New York City.
New York City, a whole block.
Fifth Avenue?
It's
around there.
I can't disclose exactly where it is because it's not closed yet, but
that's insane.
It's 50 cents, actually 40 cents on the dollar in exchange for a quick close. Exactly the same thing why, anyone that's listening to this right now think, there's no way that anyone would sell their property for 50 cents on the dollar. If you just pick up your phone and go to, Google pawn shops, are there any pawn shops in Montreal? Are there any pawn shops in Ottawa? Are there any pawn shops in Vancouver?
Of course.
Of course there are. Why? What service do they offer? Quick cash. Exactly right. So if anyone is going through a divorce, anyone is going through, they're moving, anyone is going through a financial hardship, anyone that's going through, specifically in the US, disease, which is the number one cause of bankruptcy. The number one cause of bankruptcy in the US, which is a tragedy, it's terrible, is medical bills. In Canada, we're very lucky. We have, free medical care. Okay, you're paying 50% on if you're in the right tax bracket, because you should be making more money. If you're watching this, you should be making more money, because I believe it's your right to make as much money as possible so you can pay more taxes or choose how much in taxes you pay. You can be more generous with the people that you care about. You can donate more to charity. You can do more with more money, right? It's very hard to donate $1 million a year if you don't have $1 million. So go earn it. And it's really not that hard because there's an unlimited amount of money to be had, which is a very different philosophy than most have. So there's actually no limit to how much money is there in the universe, really.
Unlimited.
There's an unlimited amount of money in the universe. So if there's an unlimited amount of money in the universe, why is there a limited amount in your bank account? Doesn't make sense.
But the choice
Because
is-
unlimited means no limits. It means that we're not fighting over air. It's like you're taking my air.
You said it, choices.
You know,
right?
it's education really, because we're not fighting over air. We're not fighting over and there's actually more money than there is air on the planet. Really, there's a limited amount of oxygen, but then the U.S. is just printing as much money as they want. There's literally a limitless, and it's all digital, so there's a limitless amount of money. And if I make $10 million, it doesn't take away from your 5 or your 10, or if you're watching this, you want to make $100 million, go ahead. It's not going to take away from what I have, right? It's not like a pie where if you get some, I lose some. There's no limit to how much money can be made. And are there people that are, immigrating to Canada or the US or even India that have no money, that have, a third world education, not like we have, that are literally have fewer teeth than we have and don't speak the language, and in 5 years make more money than most people do in a lifetime? Does that happen?
Hungry. They're hungry.
It's behavior.
Yeah.
So if you behave in the way to generate income, you're actually going to generate as much income as you want. So my passion, as you can tell, is really helping people change their behavior and how they see money. Because my parents are old school Eastern European. Marco. You must save the money. You must save the money and put it in the bank. Put the money in the bank. Old school Eastern European, and that's what most people think. Put the money in the bank, right? Well, the problem with that is, what's inflation in Canada or the US?
2%.
2-3%. What's the bank going to give you in interest?
0.5%.
0.5%. So is money worth more or worth less tomorrow?
Less.
So if money is worth less, you know what I'm saying? Worth less tomorrow, you shouldn't put your money in the bank, because the money. So what the banks do, I call them banksters. What banksters do is they take the money at a low interest rate that they give you, right? You take
from the Federal
a
Reserve,
direct deposit, or whatever. You put them. There's balloons when you're making 1%. Oh my gosh, I'm going to make 1% on your money, 2%. Oh my goodness, I'm going to make 2% of my money over 5 years. It's locked in for 5 years, and you can't touch it for 5 years, and you get a whole 2%. Wow! They take that cash that you give them, and what do they do with it? They lend out
18%.
credit cards at 18-24%. So the banks do this legally, is they take your money, right?
Lend it to somebody else.
Lend to somebody else at a high interest rate, and they give you a tip, a shitty tip. Pardon my French. A really shitty tip. So we do the exact same thing now with we're not paying a 2% interest. We're paying 8, 9, 10% to those that want to make a nice return, secured in real estate. They're making now. If you're used to getting 2%, and if I paid you 8, would you be happy?
Of course.
Of course. Big difference.
Right. So you're getting 8, which is better. So like you can take your RSP. In US, it's called a 401k. Or
Tell me about that. What do you think about mutual funds?
What do I think of them? Mm-hmm. I think that people that invest in mutual funds are wanting someone else to play with their money and invest their money. So the question really is do you really believe that someone else has your interest
As much as you.
at heart? Or who's going to care more about your money? Is it really going to be the mutual fund manager, or is it really going to be you? Who do you think cares about? You care more about your money than somebody else does. So you should get educated on how to use your money wisely. Because if you know what you're doing, you can make 8, 9, 10% on your money all day long, just as a passive investor. And if you're an active investor, which is what I am, I'm actually looking for deals. I'm active in this role. Mm-hmm. The passive investor makes 8 to 10, or more like 6 to 10.
And the active?
And I'm making money on their money. So I'm making about the same, but I'm working, right? So
you make unlimited returns, because at the end of the day, it's not your money.
it is, but I'm still putting effort into it.
Exactly.
So nothing in the world is, sit on your hands and just get checks coming in.
Mm.
That doesn't exist. That's called bullshit.
But with $7,000, you're ready to retire right now, right?
I tried retiring in 2011.
You tried.
Yeah.
Okay, and it didn't work out.
So what happens to someone that is used to working really hard and then does nothing?
You get bored.
You get bored.
You get sick.
it's either go to drugs and alcohol, literally, or which is not something I recommend to anyone, right? Just completely just diving in, just being self-destructive because you're so bored you have to do something, or give back in a way where I can empower anyone, and I really mean anyone. I can take anyone at all and show them how to, and turn them from completely broke with the right behavior, make $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month all day long. Because each door that you buy is around $200 a month.
That's cash flow.
Cash flow.
After debt service, after everything.
$200 a month. So we had this conversation yesterday. So if you're buying a condo, it's $200, right? You're making $200 a month. We discussed this, right?
But if you lose the tenant,
well, you lose a tenant, then there's $0. But in multifamily, it's $200. It's part of the model to not have 100%.
It's called vacancy, right?
It's called vacancy, right? So you have a vacancy rate, which is factored into the calculations. So, you're always going to have vacancy. It's just part of the model. Mm-hmm. And, if I have a 100-unit apartment building, I'm going to make $20,000 a month on that all day long. So if I want to give myself a $100,000 a year raise, if you're watching this, you went to your boss tomorrow and said, I want to make an extra $100,000. As of now, what's your boss going to say?
Yeah, no.
Literally, like, you're smoking some wacky tobacco. Like, you need to go. It's never going to happen. All I need to do is go buy a property that makes me $100,000 a year, which is only really a $1 million property. And I get a $36,000 a year tax savings by buying this $1 million property. Mm-hmm. So not only will I make more, I'll actually pay less in taxes, because it's really not how much money you make that counts, it's how much money you keep. So I know a lot of people that make a lot of money, but they have no time and they have no money, because they're paying all in taxes or they're spending more than they can, which is a tragedy. So if you're doing things the right way, you can actually make millions of dollars a year and pay less in taxes than most people do by working their asses off. Because if you're getting a paycheck, who gets paid first? The government does. You actually don't even see the money, before you get it. The check's already, your tax is already taken away, which is,
that's when you're on
sucks.
payroll.
That's when you're employed. You're paying the highest amount of taxes as an employee than you do as someone that invests in property, because you are considered elite.
Well, people need to eat and live somewhere.
They do.
Right? It's a recession-proof industry.
It is.
Is it?
Well, it is and it isn't, because the markets go up and down, right? Like in 2008, people lost their asses.
Yeah, but in apartments, with the economy crashing, would actually help make more money, because the people that lose their house will need to move in an apartment.
My apartment buildings went up in value.
Exactly, yeah.
When the recession hit, and that's why I started going into apartment. I only did single families before 2008. I didn't do any multifamily before 2008. And because I realized, well, crap, you got all these people that lost their homes, and if you lose your home, you need to live somewhere. So we're going to live in an apartment building because it's cheaper, or a mobile home park. So you can get a mobile home, which is 3-bedroom, 2-bath, with some land for $400 a month. Super affordable,
of course,
in the U.S. Where can you live for $400 a month, $500 a month, $600 a month? It's not possible.
I totally agree. Let's talk about wholesale, because many people don't know what's wholesale, and many people don't know you can make money just by selling paper. Just not even selling paper, moving paper, let's say.
Yeah, well, you're selling the paper technically.
Yeah.
So what I empower people to do is find first deals at great discounts, right? And understand that we're looking for people that need to sell, not want to sell. There's a huge difference. So it's not like I want that property for that price. That's not what I do. I take 100 people that are selling their property and make offers on every single one of them. So I'll make 100 offers an hour. A lot of offers.
And email or paper? Offers.
Email.
Okay.
Right?
Soft.
They're offers.
Soft offers.
Would you take this? And how much do I want to pay for anything, honestly? If you were buying something, what do you want to pay? If you're buying a car, what do you really want to buy the car for? Honestly.
Discount.
Zero.
$1, right? Or $0. Or pay me and I'll take the car, right? So I'm going to make very low offers in a way that's not, in a Canadian way, right? Yeah. Because we don't want to hurt someone's feelings, because we're Canadian. Last thing we want to do is hurt the feelings and lose a relationship. But you can actually make $1 offer without it being hurtful. There's a way to do this. I've spent 20 years trying to figure this out.
So
So
you're not
I
just like
can,
a low baller.
no, I'm not a low baller that's like, I'll give you $1 for the, for this, go F yourself. It's not how it works. It's, if you're willing to take less, let me know. So, I'll write you a check for this, but I can't pay what you're asking. If you're willing to take less, just let me know. And most will say, no, this is what I want, then they're not for me right now. But half will say, okay, well, what do you think? Right? And I have a strategy called the begging strategy. I have like a lot of strategies. I'm very checklist driven. So I like checklists. I like things that are organized. I have very specific strategies for very different things. So if someone says, make me an offer, my answer is, well, if I make you an offer, it's going to be $1 because that's what I want to pay for it, honestly. And I know that's not going to be something you want. So you tell me what you want, because if you want me to make an offer, I'm going to offer you $1. I just made $1 offer. But it doesn't sound insulting, does it?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm just being honest. That's honestly what I want to buy it for. But I know that's not going to work. So what do you want? Beautiful. I'm not going to make an offer because...
So you don't sound like a salesman.
I don't want to be a salesman. I don't want to be a salesman. I'm not a sales guy. But I am a sales guy, but I'm not a sales guy. I'm a buyer. And that's the difference. Is if you understand how to buy, most people think that buying real estate is sales.
By the way,
it's not.
Who's your number one fan?
Nick is my number one fan. Well,
let's talk about your Red Sox.
Red Sox, yes. I have those.
Why?
Only Red Sox.
Oh, I only wear Red Sox. So in 2009, I lost everything. I was homeless. My ex-wife, now my ex-wife, she was my wife, decided to take all the money that we had and disappear.
Your second marriage?
My second marriage.
Okay.
All the money we had disappeared. Millions of dollars. I was homeless.
11 million, is that right?
$11 million. Homeless. I had nowhere.
Literally homeless.
I lost my house. I lost everything in it. I lost everything.
You're sleeping in the car.
Living in the car with my 4 kids.
Oh my God.
With your 4 kids.
I had 4 kids. I still have 4 kids.
But your first wife was not helping with the kids?
She was, but I still had 4 kids. I had to take care of them. I have custody of my kids.
Shit.
It's terrible. So, and I'm in a bad place. Now in 04, 05, 06, 07, if you remember those days, and if you lived in the United States, they were doing mortgages where you literally a dog could get a mortgage, and they would pull money out at closing. Mm. So we're buying houses and pulling out $100,000, $150,000 at closing.
The Big Short.
And exactly right. And you could, literally could anyone, Canadian, it doesn't matter where you're from, they would literally sign and just get a house. You could, and so once I knew that we could get money that easily, what am I going to do? If I can pull out $100,000 on a deal, we did 10 deals a month. So we're pulling out $1 million a month, right? So I'm taking all this cash and putting aside, taking all this cash, putting aside, because I'm a saver. I can't spend that much money. Mm-hmm. So I had all this money saved up because I knew it was not going to last, right? And sure enough, the economy crashed. And I had all this cash. So what happens when you have a lot of cash and the economy crashes? You buy as much as you can. Mm-hmm. But my wife she panicked and she said, you know what? I'm just going to take all this money and I'm going to disappear. That's exactly what she did. So now I have all these properties. I have no reserves. I have no money. Lost everything within 3 months. I was literally on the street. No idea what I was going to do. And it was pretty terrible.
What the hell was going through your mind at that time?
I was self-destructive. I wanted to literally kill myself, and I, resorted to drugs and alcohol. So here I am on, literally just completely screwed up, not sleeping for 3 days. I'm staggering all over the place, and the homeless man said, spare some change. And I'm like, I didn't understand what he was saying. I was that messed up. And I look at him, and he looks at me, and he goes, brrr. When a homeless man looks at you and goes, brrr, you look like shit, right? It's terrible. So that was wake-up call number 1. I go into my pocket, and something falls out. I kick it over to him. He kicks it back to me. It was like it was money. He says, I think you need it more than I do. That was very powerful. When a homeless man tells you that you look so terrible that you probably need more Now I was devastated. Like I'm literally just wanting to die, right? Because my ego, my identity was attached to how much money I had. Not I was focused on how much money I had, and that was it. It was a terrible, terrible thing. So we're doing this weird soccer game of, kick the dollar back and forth, because he's literally kicking it back to me. And I just start walking away, and then he yells at me and says, "You should try wearing red socks for a while." That's what he said to me. Now, I don't know if this was an actual homeless man, if I hallucinated this, or if this was an angel. I have no idea. So I go home and obviously don't have any red socks. I look all over the place. I go online, and the only place, and this is in 2009, there are no sock stores in 2009 like there are now. Like in the US, there's sock stores everywhere. You can buy cool socks like what you have on right now everywhere. You go to any store and they have them. Not the case in 2009. So I find this place in Australia. They send me the socks. I put it takes a slow boat from China. It's coming from Australia. 3 weeks later, I completely forgot they were actually there. I finally put them on, and nothing happens. Nothing, right? All day I'm wearing these socks, nothing happens. I'm like, okay, well, and whatever. And my best friend calls me. Out of the blue, I'm making this story very short because it's actually a longer story. Best friend calls me out of the blue in the evening. Totally forgot I had my socks on. I was in my underwear and socks, which is not a good scene to begin with. And he calls me. I haven't talked to him in a while. He just had a kid, and I'm present for my friend. For the last 4, 5, 6, 8, 9 weeks, I'm wah. My wife took all my money. I'm angry. I'm bitter. I'm a sour asshole.
Oh, it's normal.
Right? I'm a sour asshole. My friend calls me. I'm no longer a sour asshole. I'm there for my friend as a friend. I'm listening. I'm interacting. I'm present. I'm not talking about me and how shitty my life is. I'm just present. And I'm trying to give him as much value as I can. And I talk to him for 30 minutes. I'm trying to give him whatever advice I can on parenting, on being I'm just there for him when he needs me. At the end of the conversation, he says, "How are you doing?" So I'm there for him first. He asks me how I'm doing, break down in tears, cry like a little girl, just crying, tell him what happened. Because he had no idea. And he offered at the end of that conversation to lend me $50,000. Now, David, who is my friend, for him to want to lend me $50,000 is like someone that has, is homeless to give me their home. That's like more money to him than, it's like everything. I'm going to cry over this. And it was beautiful. It was really great. Sorry. But it taught me a really good lesson in that I was present, I was there, I was his friend. He altruistically just wanted to help me. And through that, I looked at my red socks and went, wow, that's pretty powerful. So from that moment on, it wasn't about how much money I have or don't have. It's how can I really be present for the people that are around me, and how can I give them value? And that's exactly what the direction that I've taken since then. So every time I wake up in the morning, I wear these red socks because it reminds me of who I am, where I've come from, and how I can impact someone in a positive way. No matter how much money I have, it's just being present and giving them as much value as possible.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah. Oh, amazing.
Sorry
for sharing, man.
Crying like a little girl, but it's
okay.
It's still very emotional to me.
And you still, obviously, you still have a relationship with Dave?
Of course, yeah. Actually, we just went to a restaurant called. He had his birthday recently, and I took him to Alinea, which is it's on Netflix. It's like the #1 rated restaurant in the world.
Oh wow!
Alinea, where?
Alinea. It's the guy lost his. He had tongue cancer. He lost his taste.
It's David.
Not David. Yeah, I took him and his wife to Alinea,
Okay.
which
You're
is
talking about the owner of Alinea.
Yes, it's like a $2,000 meal.
Where's that?
It's in Chicago. He lives in Chicago.
Oh.
It's a very, very, it's, you know, one meal is $2,000. It's insane. But it's $500 a person, right? So I took my girlfriend, his wife, and we had this great meal. And it was great. So again, it doesn't matter what it cost. Now I'm in a position where it doesn't matter. I can, you know.
You can write a check.
I don't,
And
Yeah.
you helped multiple people retire, basically. You said yesterday, like, you don't know the exact amount.
I don't know the exact amount.
Over 100?
Over 100 people make as much money as they want. Because money is, as I said earlier, there's no limit to how much money someone can make. You pick a number.
Mm-hmm.
How much money do you want to make a month? Pick a number. Let's say 10,000. That's 50 doors. Take 10,000, divide that by 200. You're that number of doors away from retirement.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're having to work for a living, it means that you have to swap hours for dollars. But the problem with that is that as soon as you stop working,
None.
you stop getting paid.
The rat race.
You're done. So with what I do is I buy assets that make me money every month. So, and I do around $1,500 a year, and that's, if you do 1,500 times 200,
Mm-hmm. That's an increase every year.
that's
And
a
what's your goal?
$300,000 increase in revenue every single year.
And what's your goal?
I don't have a goal.
Wait, 1,500 times 200 a month. That's 300,000 a month.
Yeah.
New money.
Every month. But I can't, no matter how much money I make, I pay myself $25,000 a month, no matter how much money my companies make.
Because you're happy with that.
That's all I need. US.
Which is 50,000.
My car's paid for, my house is paid for, like I don't have any debt. So
Here's a magic question.
yeah.
Do you think real estate investing is for everyone?
That's a good question.
Is it for everyone? No. Should everyone do it? Yes. I don't love real estate. I'm not passionate about real estate. Brick, this, we're in a building right now. You pay rent to be here, right? The person that owns this building probably doesn't like real estate either, but they certainly like the cash flow that the real estate gives. So I'm a concert pianist. That's my background, is music, right? But could I be a better musician? Could I be a better business person with not having to worry about money? Because most people wake up and go to bed at night thinking about money, right? You have money problems. And that drives us to work harder, do whatever we can, there's a lot of things that happen when we worry about money. I believe that if people are given the skills, which I enjoy empowering people with, that if you understand money and how it works, you'll never have money problems again. I think that's something that everyone has to have. So even if you're not passionate about real estate, I think you should have some so you can do whatever you love to do. So if you like sewing and making buggy whips, make buggy whips. But have real estate to take care of you so you don't have to worry anymore. And the beauty of real estate is your mortgage. You have a mortgage, right? In the US, by the way, which is not at all like in Canada. In the US, you have a mortgage for 25 years. You don't have to go back to the bank every 5 years to renew it. In Canada, you have to. Mm-hmm. So you get a mortgage once, and then it just pays itself off over 25 years. And I have a student. I say student loosely. A follower. Her name is Helen, and you can actually take over debt in the U.S. that you can't do in Canada.
With no money down.
No money down. Just take over the debt. And we did that with the hotel, and this month was the last payment for her hotel. It's she owns now a hotel free and clear. She took over the debt, and it just paid itself off after a year and a half.
That's beautiful.
Just outside of New Orleans. So beautiful thing.
So for anybody watching this video right now that wants to get involved in real estate in the new year, 2020, do you have any tips, nuggets you could share with them?
I have a lot to share. And I'm not a get rich quick kind of guy, so I can't say do this and you're loaded.
Get rich slow.
It's get rich right, not get rich quick,
this.
right? Anyone that's watching this, within 3 years, you're done if you work at it. And when I say work at it,
Consistent.
it's part-time. So if you were to go to the gym every day for 30 minutes, would you look better than you look now?
Of course.
Of course.
Compound effect. The compound effect.
Right? Every day, just 30 minutes. And if you ate right and you went to the gym every day, in 3 years, what would you look like?
Top notch.
Yeah.
Yeah, you look fabulous,
12
right?
pack.
You like that, yeah.
You'll be like an alpha male.
Yeah, something like that, right? Or an alpha female. You know, like you're in the best shape of your life.
Or like Econo.
Just 30 minutes. But we don't look at finances the same way. If you did 30 minutes a day of what I do, which is all it takes, because I'm literally getting a list of people that need to sell that are either going through a divorce. And the beauty of doing business in the US is in Canada, for example, there's a Privacy Act, right? If I want to find someone in Canada, it's impossible because there's a Privacy Act. I can't get any information.
Everything's
Shut
public
down.
in the US.
US, Freedom of Information Act. So if you live in the US, I can pull up my phone and I go, okay, what's your address and where do you live? What's your address and what's your name? I can pull up your social security number. I can pull up your credit score. I can pull up all the assets that you own, what your stock market account is like, even the balances in real time, what your bank account that are tied to you looks like. I can know your whole financial, the impact, and your jail buddies, your family, everything from my phone because I know where to look.
It's a little scary, that, huh?
It's scary, but it's what it is in the U.S. Mm-hmm. So if I want to find someone that's going through divorce, that is getting sued, has some medical issues, that all these things, if you know where to look, you can find them. So I can take that, scrape the list, send out 150 emails and say, hey, if you have a property for sale, I'd love to buy it. I already know they have a property. I already know they're in trouble, right?
Sure.
So so not everyone's going to respond. I don't care. If the property's in Toad Suck Ferry, Arkansas, which is a real place. Toad Suck Ferry, Arkansas. But it makes $5,000 a month. Do I care if it's in Toad Suck Ferry, Arkansas?
No.
It makes $5,000 a month. Where most people, they get into real estate and I want that property at that price, and that's what I'm going to pay for it. And if it's not this property at this price at this location, I'm not buying it.
So you're in the cash flow business.
I just buy cash flow.
You don't buy real estate, you buy cash.
I'm not in the real estate business. I make cash flow through real estate, but I only care what the cash flow is. I don't care what I pay per door. I don't care how much I pay for it. I'll pay $10 million. I don't care.
It's all about the cash flow.
If the cash flow makes sense, because I'm not using my 10 million. I'm not using my million, right? I'm using somebody else's money that wants to make a return. So if you want to buy a $25 million property tomorrow and you're watching this, you can, as long as you bought it for the right price, because someone will lend you the money, and they're not lending you the money, they're lending the property the money. And what happens if you don't pay?
They go with the property.
They get the deal. So instead of making an 8, 9, 10% return, they're making 15, 16, 17, 18% return. So if I'm an asset-based lender and I'm lending you the money, I hope you don't pay me back, because I'm going to make more if you don't. And it doesn't affect your credit because it's not a credit-based loan, which is what it is in the US. I mean, in Canada. In Canada, it's all credit-based. No credit, no money. Right? In the US, money's different. Like I said, 5 banks in Canada, maybe 6, depending on how you look at things. In the US, thousands of banks.
If somebody wants to follow you on social media or to get a hold of you, because obviously getting started, you need to have somebody to guide you.
Yes.
How can somebody follow you?
Well, they can go to Marco at marcokozlowski.com. So if you want to send me an email directly and ask me questions, you can. Marco at marcokozlowski.com. That's KOZLOWSKI. Maybe I'll actually, if I have enough people, I'll come to Montreal and actually do an event here. If that's something that people want to do.
Maybe we'll set something up together.
Yeah, we can. And in fact, if you, we'll even, whatever proceeds, we'll give to charity as well. So if you want to do an event, I'd be happy to do one. I charge for the event. I have to charge. I would love to do it for free. The challenge with that is if someone actually doesn't pay for it, they don't show up.
Yeah.
If you don't pay, you don't pay attention. So you're not. It has to be something that hurts enough where you're going to pay attention. So the event generally costs anywhere between $2,000 to $3,500. Now, if you do attend an event, number one is I'll be happy to give whatever proceeds to whatever charities you want to give. If someone does invest into the class, I'll let them come for the first day, and if they don't absolutely love it, for whatever reason, I'll write them a check for $500. First trying it. I believe everyone should try it. So I'm actually going to give you $500 if you come day one,
You
don't like it, I'll write you a check for $500 or give it to your charity, whatever you want.
I love that. It's confidence.
Because I know that if you come, you can't leave. Mm-hmm. What's more important, and number three is not only after the first day, I'm going to show you how to pull out $3,000, $3,500 on your first deal at closing. So I'll give you $500 and you can leave, or if you stay, and anyone that comes, we work with them until they get a deal. Mm-hmm. So it's not like any other class where you come and good luck, you know, may the Schwartz be with you. I hope you make money, right? We actually have, I have enough successful people that follow me that part of my program is actually when you do a deal and you've bought enough property, you now have to give back and help others that are through the program. So part of my, I have a mentorship program where if you want to buy a hotel, and you know, I'm not trying to tout my mentorship program, but I charge $150,000 a year to work with someone on one deal. One. So it's $150, and you do a hotel, for example, and you make about, the average hotel makes about $400,000 to $500,000 a year. So would you pay me $150 to make $400,000 or $500,000 a year? Yeah. And part of that is you have to help someone do their first deal, a small one. So that's kind of the price you have to pay when you get to higher level.
And the beauty part about this, Marco, you don't need to do all this, right? You still have the cash flow.
I could wake up at noon and just scratch all day long.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're doing it because you believe in karma. You know where you came from, and you want to give back.
I want everyone to be financially independent. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that you should swap hours for dollars and mortgage your time, which is all that matters in this world. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm almost 50.
Almost 50.
Could you believe that?
What the fuck?
You're looking good, man.
Thanks.
Dude, honestly?
I'm almost 50, and it's gone by like that. I have, 26-year-old kids, 28-year-old kids, married. It's gone like this.
So what are your thoughts on Airbnb, the whole Airbnb model?
I love Airbnb. It's a marketing tool to help someone stay somewhere, right? It's like a hotel, mm-hmm. and anyone can get into it. In fact, I have a whole process around Airbnb as well, because you can, buy an apartment building and do an Airbnb on it, but make sure it's managed. Don't do it yourself. People cut corners and try to do things themselves, and you can get a property manager to do it for 10%. So if you're making $100,000 a year or $200,000 a year, you're working for $20,000 a year on this Airbnb. You're trying to save $20,000, and if you're spending all that time to save $20,000, you should be finding other deals to make more money, mm-hmm. not managing it yourself. So I believe in delegation. I'm a big delegator. So yes, I love Airbnb. It's part of my process. But don't do it yourself. Have it managed professionally, so they're bonded, licensed, insured, and if they don't do a good job, you axe them and go on to the next one.
So it's very important, if you're going to invest in a foreign market, obviously to have a good power team and a good property manager.
It's part of the process. You have to have someone else pay all the bills, so you're not in the day-to-day. That's not what you should be doing. You should be dealing with tenants, trash, termites. Do you really want to talk to a Jerry Springer tenant every single day?
No.
That would suck my life away. I have thousands of tenants. Do I want to talk to any of them?
No.
No one knows that, you might be living in my property right now if you're paying rent and you don't even know that I own it.
Mm-hmm.
You never know that I own it.
What's the biggest challenge doing what you're doing?
What's the biggest challenge? Mindset. People don't believe that they can, so they don't. All of you can, so do. There's nothing that can stop you. If I can show you without a shadow of a doubt that you can do this without any of your money, would you do it?
Absolutely.
And if it doesn't take that much time, would you do it? This is a side hustle. This is not a full-time job. I don't do real estate full-time. I do it part-time. It's always a part-time gig. So it's not full time. Because if I send out 150 emails, I have to wait for people to respond. So what am I going to do during that time? Watch Game of Thrones with a bottle of tequila? I don't know. But you do whatever you want. But it's not a full-time thing. It's part-time.
Cool. And what would you say in your 20 years in real estate or in the cash flow business, what would you say is or was your biggest highlight?
My biggest highlight is being there for the people that matter.
And what's your biggest success story?
My biggest success story is someone. So the most one of my followers have ever made is 14 million on one deal.
One of your students.
Yeah, 14 million on one deal. But that's not my proudest moment. My proudest moment is not someone that makes the most amount of money, because money doesn't necessarily change anything. It actually can make some people worse or better. Depends
it just
on how
exposes who you are.
It depends, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's. I became an asshole for a while because I had money, and then I had to lose everything to realize that it didn't matter how much money I had. My proudest moment is someone that was very shy, youngest of 10 kids, immigrated from actually Vietnam, had absolutely no confidence, and now makes $12,000 a month, which is not a huge amount.
Hey.
All right, it's it's US, that's what
Decent.
$1 million Canadian, 12,000 US. But all joking aside, she has more confidence than she's ever had before. She went from being timid to being pushed around to I am woman, hear me roar. And to me, that's very powerful, because I'm taking someone that has no confidence, that doesn't believe they can do anything, and they're insignificant, where they're realizing what their power is and making an impact on the things that that matter to them. To me, that's a very proud moment.
So Marco, once again, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Thank you for flying all the way from Florida to Montreal for one day just to be on the Nick and Jimmy Show.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much, and keep on inspiring. For sure, we're going to do some collaborations, some investments. We're going to buy cash flow together. And we appreciate you, man. Keep on doing what you're doing.
I appreciate you appreciating me, and I appreciate you guys doing what you're doing, because you can really help and impact other people, and that's what matters.
Thank you.
You're
Be very proud of yourself.
I'm proud of you guys.
Thank you.
We're proud of each other.
There you go.
High five! I like a lot. It's so nice.